Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. You know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. Big C, we love them in Canada, but there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south, in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, on a beautiful April 30th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, everything is just beautiful. We lived through the draft weekend. You know, we ate a lot of that swine that we found, on the roadside.
Yeah.
Washed it down with some good moonshine. Sit up and watch some spectacular NBA playoffs.
Yep.
The NBA and LeBron are going to the second round of the NBA playoffs.
Yep. And we talk about that vibranium. I've been hearing some good old boys on the mothership talking about that brother must be eating vibranium, Big C. They've heard about vibranium. Only two sources, Big C Sports and the movie Black Panther, Big C. That's the only place they've heard about vibranium. Now them good old boys on the mothership are shouting it out. I do want to say so much is happening in the world of the sports universe. I think I saw, maybe I was wrong, but I know Mitt Romney, he's a good old billionaire politician, ran for president of the United States, and that good old boy was at a Utah Jazz game, and he was trying to taunt, Russell Westbrook. I don't know if he gave him the bird or if he held up four. I only saw one finger because I had a lot of that shine running through my system. But I saw at least one finger, but maybe he held up four, Big C, as he was teasing Russell Westbrook. Nobody can say that sports and politics don't mix, because that good old boy, I think it was one finger, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, say he had up four fingers. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Mitt's trying to get in the mix. The only thing that he had wrong, Charlton, was he had a long sleeve striped shirt on.
Yeah.
Now, he was out of character. I mean, at least put on a white beater, It was a short sleeve T-shirt, but don't come out there looking like a politician when you're trying to act like a fan.
Yeah, that's funny. But I do appreciate the fact that so many people. Now, keep in mind, the NBA is predominantly an African-American league. Okay?
Except in Utah.
Except in Utah, but it's still an African-American league. And I wonder if he was looking for that 47% that he said was lazy when he ran for presidency of the United States.
He had four fingers. He was trying to get to that. He had the four. So he was looking at the 47% of the African-American content on the Utah Jazz team.
Yep, I thought that was funny, Big Z. It just popped into my mind. He was counting how many of these multi-millionaire black guys on the Utah Jazz basketball team didn't want to do something for themselves. We love NBA, and of course NHL is great. A lot of good things happening in that world. We talked about cannabis last week. Now all the networks are running cannabis, as far as CNN and even the mothership. A lot of guys were talking about it on radio. But I just want to say, before we even get into that, on a beautiful day like today, in California, we talk about it being the Golden State. A lot of people think it's gold because the Golden Hills. Those hills are really brown, Big C. We talked about the vibranium honey that a lot of them good old boys in the NBA are starting to say maybe LeBron's found a lot of vibranium honey. It's something that gives you extra, super strength, Big C. It makes you big and strong. And we'll talk about that as we hit on the NBA. But just give me your thoughts real quick on the NHL. I kind of feel bad for the NHL, even though people love hockey. It's kind of taken a back seat to how dominant these NBA playoffs have been, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the NHL has had some exciting games. Charlton, you think about the Las Vegas Golden Knights with a 4-game sweep over the Kings, and now they're trying to stay in pace with the San Jose Sharks in the second round of the playoffs being 1-1.
Yep.
But, you think about how exciting it is. Last night, the Washington Capitals and Pittsburgh Penguins playing, Charlton, and the Penguins kind of got hosed. I mean, it was almost like a little bit of LeBron when he had the goaltending. And we saw the same thing on the hockey game, Charlton, where the puck looked like it had gone in the goal.
Yep.
2-3 inches, but evidently replay didn't work. And so, the thing about it, people are sitting on the edge of their seats spilling it. Well, they don't spill the beer at a hockey game. Trust me, no one loses a drop.
Yep.
You know, but I mean, it's been some exciting playoff hockey, Charles. Where when you think about Stanley Cup and how competitive those games are, I mean, they're normally 1-goal games at this time of year, Charles. And every now and then you get a blowout, but
yeah,
they're played so intensely and close. You know, we see the NBA, and the game is all over the place. You know, score swings.
Yep.
But in hockey, they're playing it close to the best, Charlton, every minute.
Yeah, they do a good job, especially skating on ice. I do want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C said so you can drive a car or you could drive a Cadillac. Big C, I told you that Cadillac came out with that self-driving car. And I went out and test drive one over the weekend, and it's beautiful. But they did tell me it's best to do it when you're on the highway, not driving through the parking lot. What do you do when you wreck someone's new car and you driving through? I mean, I didn't wreck it. They have those bumpers that can dent, but they don't necessarily, dent up completely. They pop back in shape. But maybe they should tell people to take your hand off the wheel on the highway, Big C, not in the parking lot. Big C, that make any sense?
Well, Charlton, depending on which city you're in, you don't want to take your hand off the wheel at any time. I mean, especially around here when I get on the freeway, we got some, I think I drive bad, we got some crazy people out on the freeway.
Yeah.
And, if you get a little tipsy on that moonshine, who knows what you may do. You may think that you're driving the car, but, and you never have your hands on the wheel. But, it's amazing where technology goes, Charlton. And technology is pushing all over the place.
Yeah.
It's just like some research that just came out, Charlton, where they talked about the postmortem CTE scenarios, Charlton. Yeah. And it showed that majority of those players, Charlton, that had that played Pop Warner football. They played football prior to the age of 13. And so, prior to the age of 12, which gave them a 13% increase on the chances of having this, Charlton.
That's incredible.
And so that's a striking number when you come out, and you're going to have a lot of people that fight against research and medical science, Charlton. But, what they're saying is that maybe it's too early for so many kids to start playing Pop Warner football.
Yeah. Because
of brain development, Charlton, at that early stage. And, I mean, it's like, if you think about that, they have this thing called shaken baby syndrome.
Yeah.
That, a lot of children have been injured by parents or somebody associated in their care. And so this is sort of what they're saying is happening to these youth football players that are 12 and under, is that it's akin to shaken baby syndrome that they're coming up with, and it's aiding them in far as the onset of this CTE, Charlton, if they move on and play in the professional ranks.
That's
which
incredible.
I think that study is very poignant because when we always talk about protecting children, protecting people, Charlton, I mean, really, if you go back over the years and look at the number of kids who have played Pop Warner football, Charlton, I didn't get a chance to play it because it came in after I was past that age.
Yeah.
But I look at so many guys now, Charlton, when you look at all these post-mortem situations that are occurring, and a majority of these people, Charlton, that had the CTE or that have it now, play Pop Warner football. So there has to be some correlation there, Charlton, with this study that it's just like with Dr. Amalo.
Yeah.
When he came out, all the resistance that was against him, saying, well, you can't make this public. You can't let people know. I think when you talk about the safety of young human beings, Charlton, you should not be trying to hide anything because it may jeopardize dollars down the road.
I think that's part of the corporate America, the fact that we always got to put the money first. When you put money above people, we all have a mortality rate. Actuaries know that. So you go out and get a life insurance policy. No one can insure you for most companies, they will not insure you past 85 years old. And if they do, the rates are very high. So they think once you hit 85, you're not worth insuring. So what does that mean for a young kid? Well, I love the NFL. In fact, Goodell's done a great job. $14 billion industry, projected to be $27 billion industry in the next decade, Big C. That's because a lot of streaming TV is coming out. But if your athlete is worth, let's just say, $100 million over 10 years. I mean, that's for the average guy. The good guys get about that kind of money, every 5 years or so. But what's a kid worth? They don't bring any money into the NFL, so of course they got to fight that feeder system, the Pop Warner system, that feeds into the high school system, that feeds into college, that feeds into the pro sports. So Big C, they will never really do anything to advocate for kids. That's like the farmer pulling his crop out of the field before it goes to harvest. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it is so true, but I think as parents, you have to think about, you can't be living vicariously through your children, thinking that if you push them at a younger age that they're going to develop. You have to look at the NFL post Pop Warner football.
Yeah.
It always existed. It was there. And I believe Pop Warner came along, Charlton, somewhere around 1970, I believe 69.
Yeah.
When it started. And the NFL was well in advance at that point. So when you think about the players that never got an opportunity to play, Charlton, and there's still players that are playing in the NFL today that never had a chance to play in Pop Warner. A lot of it based logistically on locale or even their size and growing up. If they were too large to play in certain leagues, I think they have a weight limit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is. But, as a parent, you have to look. If you have a Pop Warner team and it has 40 kids on it, Charlton, the average NFL team, I believe, has 53 players on it.
Yes.
And these leagues with these Pop Warner teams, Charlton, probably have anywhere between 10 and 14 to 16 teams in a league.
Yeah.
And you times that by 40. You got to be realistic about your child's chances of making it to the league. And also, I think most parents need to take a look at the guys that are coaching these teams.
Yes.
What is their qualification? What type of medical training have they gone through? Have they gone through any CPR training, Charlton? What was the level of football that they participated in? How many coaching clinics have they attended, Charlton? How do they understand the health and welfare of these young children that are out there?
Yeah.
Are they out there trying to protect them as well as develop them, or are they out there trying to develop them and whatever else happens?
Well, I recall playing Pop Warner football when I grew up, and I know that I think I got knocked out one time. I don't remember, but I know they held up what Mitt Romney did at the Utah Jazz game. He told me how many fingers. I didn't know if he gave me one or two fingers, Big C, but I remember that being knocked out as a Pop Warner player. Of course, it took two guys to do it, Big C. What one guy on his own, Big C. But at the same time, I think about, I know a lot of sports leagues, and no one's saying end football. Just like Cadillac, they got those self-driving cars now. They're not saying cancel the automotive industry because some cars don't have self-driving. All they're doing is trying to make them safer. It doesn't mean you get rid of it, you make it safer. I got to bring up a thought. I think it was Durison that played for the Bears, and I believe it's Illinois, where they were trying to pass a law to stop contact sports for football, Big C, before the age of 12. Even though 12 is very, very young, the cranium continues to develop in young people, even until you're in your early 20s, it keeps developing. So I want to get your thoughts on this. Why, instead of saying, oh, there's no problem with it, we have people on the sidelines that don't have medical skills, they just have, I've seen them still give smelling salts and having a guy to go shake it off and, sit down and take a deep breath. Why is it that you have to be licensed to get behind the wheel of a car? You got to be at least 16. But you don't need to be licensed to guard guys who are under 16 playing sports. Does that make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
It really doesn't, Charlton. I was watching an NBA game with the Cavaliers and the Pacers over the weekend. And I watched Kevin Love take an elbow to the face and the head area.
I saw that.
And he went down. And he was dazed. And he just came off a concussion protocol. And I guarantee you, Charlton, he was concussed in that game. But because he's the second leading scorer on Cleveland, they couldn't afford to have him go through concussion protocol and miss a week because Cleveland would have been eliminated from the playoffs. So the dollars are always been worth more than an individual's health, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so whether it's in the professional ranks or whether it's in the youth ranks, Charlton, it's about winning. There was a commercial on television with his father after the game, was walking to the car with his son, and he had this participation trophy.
Yes.
And he's like, he tore the plate off of the trophy and wrote on there champion.
Yeah.
Because that's where human competitiveness is, Charlton. We all strive to be champions.
Yes.
We don't want to settle for anything else. And I can recall the multiple times, Charlton, that I was concussed. I sent so much ammonia inhalant, Charlton, during my career that, I could use it to wash my clothes with.
Yeah, in fact, I see you wash your clothes on some of those things when I came to visit down south, Big C. I was wondering what it was. Brought back memories, Big C. I tell you.
This is the thing that no one really understands, the overall effect. You think about it. Any individual who's listening to the show, if you think that athletes are playing and that teams really care, go look in your laundry room or someplace in your cleaning cabinet and find a bottle of ammonia. Take the top off of it, cover up one nostril, and take a hit off of it. That's what they give to athletes. I don't know if they still do it, but I'm going to imagine, because I see doctors rolling stuff out of their nose, trainers.
Yeah.
But we took that all the time.
Yep.
And imagine what this ammonia is doing to your brain cells also.
Yeah.
It's wakening you up. I mean, it's clearing your head. But think about you're ingesting and inhaling a chemical in mass amounts on a regular basis.
Yeah.
They're giving it to people. And this was the normal medicine of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Is that stick the ammonia capsule, pop a couple of them, stick them in their nose, and watch his eyes widen up.
That's what doctors
go
do.
in a room wherever you got the cleaning solutions in your house. Find the ammonia. Take a hit of it. Take 3 or 4 hits of it, and see what an athlete would go to on the sidelines when they were dazed.
Yeah.
Technically concussed, but they only call them dazed.
And imagine being a young person, and that's the thing too. When you're a young person, and they're telling you, if you want to play, you got to get back out there and be tough. I think about some of the things that happen. I watched a little bit of the NFL draft because I'm not so enamored with them telling me what a college guy is going to do to make the NFL better.
Being enamored even what a college guy can do. I love your expert friends, in McShay and...
I don't know those guys, Big Z. I think McShay and, the hair man, Kuiper. Yeah.
When you can sit there and look confused because all of what you projected is not happening.
Yeah.
So, I'm still trying to figure out what a draft expert is.
Yeah.
You can give me statistics on anybody because you have them there and you have a guy sitting in a control room popping the name up.
Yeah.
Boom, right in front of you. You got it all propped in front of you.
Yes.
But when you're sitting there saying, well, no, this guy's going number 1, number 2, number 3, they got one guy right, I think, and that was the running back, Barkley.
Saquon Barkley, yeah.
After that, they had nobody.
You know what's
they didn't
funny?
have the first overall pick. They didn't have the third overall pick, the fourth. All the way down to 32 in the first round. They didn't have any of these big sharpers.
Yeah.
They just guessed like anybody. It reminds me of when I used to go to Vegas on a regular basis.
Used to.
I don't want people knowing.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Big C. Loose lips, sink ships. I'm sorry.
And I'm sitting there, and a dealer has 6 decks of cards sitting in front of him. Okay.
Yep.
6 decks, and I'm sitting there with less than a pad hand, and he has something underneath him, and I'm guessing what he has, and I'm guessing what the next card is going to come up. That's what these draft experts remind me of.
Yeah.
It's like sitting at a table in Las Vegas playing blackjack, and the dealer has 6 decks of cards, and he said, go ahead on, take another guess, stupid.
That's funny. I told you I do a lot of the AAU here in California. Really good for a lot of young people. Gets them in the right path, but also a lot of scouts show up, too, to see when basketball season's over for high school. Then they'll come out and they want to see who's playing the AAU because that's where a lot of the competition steps up. But I just got to let people know, I was talking to some young people about what happens in the world of the NFL draft. And they talk about Big C Sports, of course, and the other programs that are out there. And they say, man, I wish I knew what some of these guys knew. Well, I'm going to give you a clue. If you want to get into media, there's 2 types of media, just like a concert. When you watch these guys on all the TV shows that look the same, they usually have a white guy or a white lady, and they'll be the moderator, usually in a suit. They'll put a black guy on there with some sweatpants and something, whatever, just kind of casually dressed, every now and then to wear a suit. And then they keep talking as if they know all these numbers and all these stats. But I want you to understand something for the young people. They have a monitor that they're reading. They don't know as much as they're saying. Okay? Don't think the job is intimidating. Anyone can sit up and read a monitor and make it seem like they have that knowledge, but they don't. In fact, working in that industry for so many years, it's not a criticism, it's just an observation. Most of them, if they were to take that teleprompter, turn it off, take that producer plug out of the ear, you have people making millions of dollars and they don't even know what they're talking about. They're guessing and they're reading. So for the young people, if you want to learn how to do the business like Big C Sports, you do it impromptu, you speak extemporaneously. There's no notepads in front of me telling me what to say. I write some things down, but no one's pumped into my ear. I don't know what Big C is doing on a boat fishing and doing the show at the same time with a cup of moonshine. You don't see that on TV, Big C. Maybe you're part of that 47% that they wrote me.
We're talking to the youngsters.
Yeah.
We're talking to the AAU kids.
Yeah.
You can't be mentioning moonshine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said no. I'm just shining moon. The moon shines at nighttime.
You talk about sitting up under the moonshine at night.
Yes.
Okay?
I love the moon shining at night.
That's what's happening. The moon is shining on the water at night.
Well,
so that the catfish come up, okay?
When you were saying moonshine, I thought you were talking about the moon shining on the water. Were you talking about something else, Big C?
That was my story and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, but I want to tell these young people, don't be intimidated. It's just like going on a date. No one shows up with a script in their hand and they're reading you what they think you want to hear. They either speak from the heart or they don't. If somebody shows up on BigCDate.com and they told you we sent them and they got a script, they're not real. Speak from your heart, just like a concert. Can that make sense to the young people? Don't be intimidated about the business. Most people would never turn off the teleprompter unless they're doing a live play-by-play broadcast. Big C, that make any sense?
Well, Charlton, I think in any business is that you have to be well-versed. You can't always talk to a script. You know, it's like when you watch all these shows on television and everybody will either have a notepad in front of them where they've written down notes or they'll have a laptop or something in front of them, and most of them look into the prompt.
Yep.
But they're not speaking of it. And look at this. I'm not being a sexist anything right here. When I think about our female counterparts, and they want to speak insightfully about players and the game and how things evolve. I was playing the game when female reporters were first allowed in the locker room back in the 80s. And, I mean, it was a tense situation because it was a domain that was male-dominated. And
sometimes you
really outsiders, it was tough.
Sometimes you don't have any clothes on, yeah.
Yeah, and so you had to rush to get your clothes on. You had to be proper for them, where male reporters you didn't have to because it was just our neighborhood. But these women have come into the industry. It has evolved a lot over the years since then. But I still don't understand how they can have insight of how a male athlete operates. And I'm not saying that they don't study, but what I'm saying is to understand the intangibles of their actions, whether it's basketball, baseball, football. You know, they read, but to understand how the mechanics of an athlete works, what it takes for him to get to that point. When I see former athletes as analysts, I really respect that.
Yeah.
Because they tell you from the inside of the game, Charles.
Some of them do.
That's why they get hired all the time.
Some of them, Big C. Some of them.
Well, some of them. But, you know, when I get the other gender come up there, and I respect them for being in the industry. And, you know, you see a lot of them as sideline reporters on all events. And they'll ask a coach, okay, so, Coach, what do you do to get your players motivated? What would you say to your players in this type of situation? Now, a male athlete knows that. You know, and if you look at the different questions that they ask, you know, when you have a former male athlete ask a coach a question versus one of the female sideline reporters ask a question, and you'll get a lot of turn up from the eyes of some of these coaches. So really,
well, it also depends. But it also, in fairness too, there's a lot of excellent women reporters that can run circles up and down the men.
And that's what I acknowledge right off the bat.
Yeah. So, but I've also seen.
What I'm saying is, how do you understand the pain of a male athlete in an event, whether it's mental or physical?
Yeah, and sometimes people are being told what to say. But again, to speaking to the youth. Not everybody has to like Big C Sports, but you can't say it's real. I mean, you can't say it's not real. We're extemporaneous, and I talk to a lot of the young people that want to be something, and I say, don't try to be the next pro athlete. Those jobs are not going to happen. It doesn't mean it's easy, but get your microphone and go out and cover some sports and just start talking into it. And just do it without a teleprompter. Because when you get to that level, they're not even themselves. And I think, and this is just my observation, because I know a lot of our brethren in the business, been around a long time, but I always say, put the script down. Just talk like you're on a date. Just talk from the heart. But sometimes they don't know how, Big C. And that's not a knock at anybody who can't. But when the young people think, man, that's a tough job, how do they know so much? They're reading most of the time. I mean, that's just a fact. You rarely have guys do it. And I think the best conversation that I've had, Big C, whether the press box or on the sideline, talking to male and female reporters, is when you're off script. You just have a conversation. That's when it's real. But you don't see that at some of these main networks. They all look the same. And I don't know how they're still selling it, Big C.
You mentioned this, okay? We just went through the draft.
Yeah.
You know, some 260-plus players were drafted. How would someone know all that information on all these players if you're not sitting there and somebody's feeding it to you, someone's talking in your ear?
Yeah.
We got this coming up on the monitor. Look at this. You got this reading point. It's like even when they flash up a picture, you got a player drafted, all of a sudden his picture, his stats, his size, everything is popped up there with him to aid you along. But tell me what you know about this guy as a person.
Yeah.
That's what I'm more interested in. I've seen the stats, and I used to be awed, you know, late in my career when these young guys would come to training camp, Charlton, and we would always sit there and look at them. It's like, wow, I wish I looked like that physically.
Yeah.
You know, those are not intangibles. That's just part of the business. The intangible is mental. Tell me about the kid's background. Tell me about what makes him tick.
Yeah.
Tell me why he's going to be the next guy that's going to help your franchise get to that place. You know, it's like in the draft. There was so much talk about these top 4 quarterbacks in the draft, Charlton. Ended up 5 of them going in the 5th round, with Jackson being number 5 in the 30th position of Baltimore.
Yeah.
Okay?
But they don't come back and tell you that, though, Big C.
But you look at this, Charlton. Those first 4 quarterbacks that were drafted, what type of advantage do any of them have? They have a greater chance, Charlton, to fail in the NFL than they do to be successful. The reason why, Cleveland has started 28 quarterbacks going into this season, okay? 28. There's going to be 29 with Taylor. It's going to be 30 with the kid Mayfield they drafted number 1. Donald, you know, he was 32nd in the country QBR rating at USC. Everybody says he's a can't miss. But he didn't get better, Charlton, in his junior year. He got worse. He went down. His talent level decreased. And everyone said, well, he lost offensive linemen. Doesn't make any difference. He was this great guy.
Yeah.
If he could get rid of the ball, the offensive lineman made him fumble 9 times, Charlton, not having them.
Well, if
the offensive lineman made him throw 14 interceptions, not having them. No, Charlton, that's on Donald.
If you want,
because when he throws a touchdown, they didn't say it was on the offensive lineman.
Well,
you know, and then you look at Allen. This kid, he's going to Buffalo. You think about this, and this is not a knock. The last white quarterback that Buffalo started threw 5 interceptions in half a quarter. Okay?
Yeah.
Nathan Peterman. All right? Came from Pittsburgh, not a top-flight program, but he played against better competition than what Josh Allen did. They traded for A.J. McCarron from Cincinnati, who won a couple of national championships at Alabama. But he's just a stopgap quarterback.
Yeah.
They keep thinking that Allen is going to develop, which he's not. Put it this way, the head coach will lose his job before Allen has a winning season in Buffalo, if he ever has one.
You know,
that's how bad it's going to be. The same thing with Todd Bowles in New York. He will lose his job before Sam Darnold can produce a winning season in New York.
You know,
and then you look at Josh Allen, who has the best chance of all of the top 4 quarterbacks picked, but his receiving core is getting old.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's going to have some problems there. The best one, Charlton, is Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to Baltimore. This is a perennial winning team.
Yeah.
They haven't struggled trying to win. It's just Joe Flacco hasn't played well.
Yeah.
He's got 1 year left on his contract. All of a sudden, if Jackson steps up, becomes a starter in the 2 years, Charlton, wins 10, 11 games. Where's your buddy Kuiper and McShay at that point, Charlton?
Well, just look at who they picked last year. I think, and I love the USC program. I followed it for years, back in the days of Garrett when he played there. But for a lot of the coaches that I talked to, They said the way they evaluated Sam Darnold was against Texas and against Ohio State. Nobody else, because those two programs will have the most NFL talent that they'll see. And he struggled against those teams that were big and fast. And of course, I want him to do well. But you can't tell me you're going to evaluate him. He even struggled against Washington State when they were rolling up in the earlier part of the season. And of course, I thought he could have come back another year. But if someone's going to give you a few $1 million, Big C, you got to take the money, because money.
$25 million.
I'm sorry. I shortchanged him $5 million. I might be that 47% Mitt Romney talked about, Big C. So I didn't mean to shortchange him $5 million. And of course, we wish everybody well. But for the young kids, when they want to say, hey, I want to get on TV, I want to get on radio, but I don't know what those guys know. Most of those guys don't know squat. I challenge all of them. I mean, all the networks that really want to bring on, you know how sometimes you can bring your kids to work with you, Big C? I would challenge these networks that really want to reach out to the young people, because we all say we care about the youth. Let them see what it's like to do a show. It's a lot of it's smoke and mirrors. A lot of people could not make it if you turned up the teleprompter and took that producer plug out of their ear. It's just like going on a date. You got to speak from the heart. Don't go reading the script to somebody you want to go out with. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. 8624. So again, I love speaking to the young people. I don't know why they listen to me, Big C, because oftentimes I'm listening to you, and I thought that moonshine meant the sign that come out of the universe, Big C. I had no idea. I said, how do you drink moonshine? I don't understand. I didn't want to seem dumb, so I just didn't speak up to it, Big C. But it's a shining from the nighttime. I understand. And speaking of shining from the night, and something that shines so bright, I want to turn to one of our favorite Hollywood celebrities. And again, when you talk about being brilliant, when you talk about being gifted, I think none other than Cicely Tyson, probably the greatest female African-American actress of all time. She finally, after 60 years, Big C, gets her fingerprints in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Why did it take so long when she's one of the best actresses in the history of the universe? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Jonathan, not just the best actress, but a very elegant lady. Cicely Tyson has been the poster lady for character over all of these decades, Jonathan. This is someone who goes back to the civil rights movement when she was working in Hollywood, trying to get her foot through the door with great actors like Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, Ossie Davis, so many character actors of the black genre in those days, Charlton.
Yeah.
But Cicely Tyson have done such marvelous roles. I think of, she was in Roots, you know, the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman.
Yeah.
You know, just so many. She even worked with the great Richard Pryor, the late Richard Pryor, over the years, Charlton.
Yeah.
But Cicely Tyson has always been a lady of character on and off of the screen, Charlton. She, you know, when you hear her voice, she gave you that tone of comfort and intelligence that was coming out of her, Charlton, that made you listen. She resonated in how she spoke. But even on her screen presence, when you look at the roles that she played, Charlton, she always played roles of character, very demeaning. She always played roles to show the young African actresses that was coming up, these are the type of roles that you should play, roles that are memorable.
Yep.
That people will look back and say, I can understand where she's going with this. And to take 60 years, Charlton, to get her fingerprint in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Charlton, that is a disgrace, because when we see some of these people who have come along and you know, been on screen for a cup of coffee,
yeah,
that has classless entertainment that they put on, but yet they deserve their hands in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Charlton. Just a miscarriage of justice as far as from the film industry, Charlton.
Yes.
But finally being recognized, Charlton, you know, at this late stage in her life, I'm very proud of this woman, and always will always be proud of her, and it's always wonderful just to say her name and see her face.
You know, that reminds me, I love being an advocate for all people. We know all life began on the African continent, and I love saying Google that. I think if we were to have people Google that, there'd be less enmity toward African Americans. If you know where your root comes from, I think you would respect it a little bit better if you knew that we're all from the same tribe. And I bring that up because if we don't speak for African Americans, and I speak for all people, but all people haven't been treated the same, we know that. So I speak to the goodness of all people. But when I look at movies like Hidden Figures and how African American women were really the citadel behind even the space movement, okay, going into space, Big C, they're the first to discover moonshine, Big C. Both kind, if you understand what I'm saying, Big C. But I think, and vibranium honey, of course, that discovered by black women too on the African continent. But I gotta say this, because we love so much about actors. You talked about the late Richard Pryor. Would you believe that as a young boy, I was always told, you can't listen to that because he's going to talk grown folk business. And we know what grown folk business means, Big C, especially when you're a little kid. And he talked about things that were real, and it was real talk. He wasn't reading from a script. The fact that you have someone like Cicely Tyson, the great Richard Pryor, in that same genre, they were brilliant, Big C. But how many more people were as brilliant like them but did not get the same acclaim? And it took one of the greatest women in Hollywood 60 years, Big C. How many Hidden Figures do we have in the black diaspora that didn't get a chance, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charleston, there's countless numbers of minority actors that have not had their fingerprints put into the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You can just look up the ledger over the years in the movies, and then you can look at a lot of these young upstarts that have come along, Charlton, that haven't been in the industry for 10 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they have their fingerprints on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I think a lot of it, Charlton, comes down to the voters.
Yeah.
You know, you look at an industry that, you know, when we look at the Academy Awards, Charlton, when you look at the lack of participation far as from the minority community having opportunity.
Yeah.
It is the same way when it goes to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Charlton. You know, when you think of the quality movies that have been done by so many minority actors and actresses over the years who haven't had that opportunity to be immortalized.
Yeah.
That is American society, though, Charlton. You know, at its best and at its ugliest all at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, you have to offer equal opportunity to people. This is where we thought we had gotten to with desegregation.
Yep.
In '68. But it didn't change, Charlton. It's left so many things the same. And you know, you'll always get the cry. Well, you know, look how well all these African Americans are doing. Look at these athletes. Don't tell me about the athletes, okay? They're only part-time workers. Think about it. And they're owned by somebody.
Yeah.
They're not free in their own industry. They're owned. Think about that. They don't have the freedom to say, hey, I don't want to work here anymore. I'm going to go work down the street.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave Charles Schwab and I'm going to go to E-Trader.
Yeah.
They can't do that. They are owned. So when you think about these African-American athletes doing so well, and all athletes, mainstream and all that,
yes,
they are property. They do not have the freedom to do their own thing. That's why when we went on strike years ago, Charlton, we went on strike for our freedom.
Yeah.
To have the ability to move about when our contracts are up. And so people don't think, and they don't understand that athletes don't have the autonomy as the rest of the people out in the American workforce. If you want to leave one company, if you want to leave GM and go to Ford, you want to leave Ford and go to Chrysler, you want to leave Chrysler and go to Mercedes, you can do that.
Yes.
If they offer you a better position. You want to leave one airline, American, go to United, United go to Delta,
yep,
and Delta to Southwest. If they offer you a better position within their company, you have the freedom to go as an American citizen.
Yeah.
But as an athlete, you do not have the freedom. You are owned property. You belong to someone until they say, we don't want you anymore.
Yeah. So for you young people, just keep in mind, get the education. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but don't be so enamored that you can do what the people on TV are doing. A lot of them can't do it either. They're just reading, okay? So don't feel intimidated. Be emboldened. Embolden yourself and do it. I do want to touch on something just briefly that we covered last week, Big C, before we get into the NBA. You know, we talk about how to keep people safe. We just opened the show talking about the issues that young kids get about CTE issues, symptoms. They get knocked out. They give them the smelling salts. Smells like ammonia. A lot of people have it when they wash their clothing. And how do we keep kids safer without eliminating the sport? Okay, now we covered this last week. You can Google it. Well, just over the weekend, I saw, and I love CNN. They were doing a program on CNN just last night. I said, Big C, we just talked about this on Monday and Tuesday. You can Google that. How cannabis would actually be healthier for athletes because they wouldn't have all the addictive substances that they get from the opioids that's given to them by team doctors, Big C, and people know that's the fact. Well, there is a fact that a lot of people may not know. And when we say why is cannabis illegal in the NFL and people test positive for it, they can lose their jobs. In Major League Baseball, 60% of the players are Caucasian. In NHL hockey, about 93% of the players are Caucasian. In the NFL, over 70% of the athletes are African American. In the NBA, over 75% of the athletes are African American. Would you believe that marijuana is a banned substance for the NFL and the NBA, but it's not for the NHL and Major League Baseball? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Johnson, it goes back to that statement I made just a few minutes ago. You're owned, okay? And if you're owned, then you're a guinea pig and a test market for those who support you. We understand that the fans support all professional leagues, Charlton. But the pharmaceutical companies support these leagues that you get injured the most in. Football and basketball.
Yep.
They probably suffer more injuries than any other league, Charlton. When you see players going down all the time. Matter of fact, kid from the Celtics pulled his hamstring. He's going to have some miracle to make his hamstring better so he can play.
Yeah.
But, football, you're hurt every day. There's not a healthy football player that comes out of training camp, okay? You're just hurt after preseason. And so to get to the next stage, Charlton, you're going to need something. They already know the medicinal purposes of cannabis, Charlton, the THC, how it helps the body recover.
Yeah.
You can pull out products out of marijuana through extraction, Charlton.
Doctors
to
been
get
doing
rid
it.
of the hallucinogenic product.
Yeah.
Bodies of it. But that's not going to help the pharmaceutical industry, Charlton. So let's start suspending these players. We don't mind you taking Vicodin. We don't mind you taking a codeine injection. You can take all the injections you want, Charlton. But that's okay because it comes from a pharmaceutical. And you look at the number of pills that a player takes. You would think that all the NFL lived in West Virginia with the amount of narcotics that they ingest.
Yeah.
But if they use something that's going to help them, Charlton, and the NFL is not getting money from it, think about this. They're getting a kickback from the pharmaceutical industry for all the narcotics they use. The NBA does also, Charlton.
Yeah.
But they haven't found a way to get a kickback from the cannabis industry. So we're going to keep that illegal until we can find a way to get it cut.
Well, a sad news, kind of a lacrymal speech even, is when you realize we have this Me Too movement, and of course we got to support women in the NFL, and you don't criticize people just to criticize, you criticize it to make it better, just like Cadillac has these self-driving cars now. A lot of other people are experimenting with that, at least self-parking and driving on the highway. But if you, and it's sad to even make this statement, okay? Because I wouldn't want it to happen to anybody that I care about, and no one should. But would you believe for the time that the NFL is no more and no hit women anymore, and they use a couple athletes as a scapegoat, would you believe for all those people that said, Colin Kaepernick didn't stand up on the flag when it was really Black Lives Matter movement, police brutality, criminal justice reform, keeping kids safe. If you're a woman that buys an NFL ticket and you got a daughter, I assume you have a mother or had one at some time, the penalty is much more harsh. If you are an athlete that fails the test that shows positive for cannabis, it's more harsh than if you batter a woman. Now think about that. I know you just want to know the score. I know you can't wait to cheer and buy a jersey. But a man who tried to stand up for you being battered, okay, he can't get a job. But if you do get battered, they'll look to hire you. But if you take cannabis to deal with some of the swelling you have in your body from being battered by other football players, you can lose your career. Big C, that doesn't make any sense. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you fail the drug test, 4-game suspension, automatic by the NFL. And you think about the harshness of that. You know, here's a guy in pain, trying to alleviate the pain. When you think about the damage that a lot of these opioids and synthetic drugs do to your kidneys, they do to your liver, and the NFL is okay with that.
Yeah.
They're okay with you suffering internal damage. And you think about it, Charlton, a lot of these guys that are on these opiates are illicit. And so think about it. You get out behind the wheel and you drive. You know, we saw Tiger Woods be arrested a year ago.
Yeah.
And he driving while, you know, on these pills, prescription pills. And so they say, okay, because you're on prescription pills, you need to go to counseling. That's what you do. Go to counseling.
Yeah.
Well, who prescribed the pills, Charlton?
Yeah,
the
doctors
name of
that do that.
So does the doctor get hit with aiding and abetting? No, they don't.
No.
You know, you can prescribe all the drugs that can kill a person. Right now, they say opiates is a medical crisis in America because 166 Americans are dying every day in America from opiates, Charlton. And there's some young athletes that are part of that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But they're not telling us that people are dying from cannabis in America, Charlton.
No,
that's what perplexes me. The opiates that the pharmaceutical companies produce that pay these professional teams to have their players use them, the NBA, the NFL. We don't want you using cannabis, but there's people dying in America every day from opiate OD, but no one ODing from cannabis because they fell asleep on their couch.
You know, there's a doctor by the name of Sanjay Gupta, very enlightened, erudite man. And, you know, I didn't know either. I was ignorant to something. That cannabis, the medical components inside of it, there's oils they use to treat epilepsy. There's oils they use to treat some cancers, some form of tumors that they have. I didn't know all this stuff. And at a time where they were growing, you know, opioids as well as the cannabis, it was being used as medicinal treatment, Big C. And then I think Congress did something to wipe it out because they got more money from the opioid distributors as opposed to the cannabis. But it's funny because I was just getting some gas the other day, and right in front of me was maybe a young man, I'd say maybe in his 20s, early late 20s, and he bought 3 cartons of cigarettes, and no one suspended him. It says known by the state of California to cause cancer, but it's not illegal to buy. And because I know so many athletes, and Kyle Turley, I mean, bless that man, because there's a lot of athletes that do it too, but they put a white face on it to make it seem like, okay, maybe we should start looking at it now. A lot of black guys have lost their careers and been incarcerated over that, Jordan, okay? But when Kyle Turley talked about the pain that he was going through, he contemplated taking his own life. Here's a big, powerful football player that was taking, he said, oftentimes, you know, up to 20 pills a day from something the NFL says you can take it, but you take one cannabis, they got to suspend you. And so I'm glad that people, we know how we say we don't like sycophants people, not dumb people who are afraid. I'm glad that smart people are starting to say, if you don't listen to anybody, listen to the medical doctors at least that look at both sides of the coin, not just the opioid pushers. Big C, I'm glad that people can Google now and they can see that, because that's how we can keep our society and athletes safer. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Kyle Turley, Charlton, was a tremendous offensive player out at San Diego State, played offensive tackle. Played a decade with the New Orleans Saints, was a part of that Super Bowl winning team, Charlton. But he couldn't take the pain of the league anymore. He retired when he still had some tread left on the tire. But the pain, as he talked about, constant ingestion of opioids given to him daily by doctors and the medical staff of the team. And the league said it's okay. You can play high. Think about that. The league will let you play doped up, but they won't let you pass a marijuana test. Take all the pills you want, Charlton. I remember at one point in my career, I was taking 12 Vicodin a day. 12. It was just an abnormal amount. Taking 4 at a time. 3 times a day, Charlton. just to function. And I was taking 4 of them to play a game.
Wow.
So I still had the ability to function, but my system was taking a toll on me. And I had a talk with my oldest brother about this. He said, you know, you got a problem. I didn't even know I had a problem. The team didn't tell me I had a problem. Took my brother, who was not in the game, to tell me that I had a problem and that I needed help. And so he talked to me. He talked me through this situation.
Yeah.
And I was able to wean myself out of this, Charlton. But it took a family member, not a medical expert, to tell me I had a problem. And the medical expert was shoving the stuff in my face all day long.
You know, and we talk about, again, I'm around the AAU. I'm not advocating people do anything other than get a doctor's opinion and then get a second opinion. POTUS, before we touch a little bit on the NBA, Donald Trump, he signaled his approval for the cannabis industry, easing fears of a federal crackdown by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. That's April 13th. You can Google that. Donald Trump, President of the United States. He assured the federal government will respect state law on the marijuana, primarily because it's becoming more knowledgeable that it's a white-run industry. Okay, and if they start cracking down, they got to incarcerate more white kids. You can Google that too. So why are athletes being suspended if they test positive? And they also showed that by 2021, research shows that in California alone, the vibranium state, Big C, where they get that vibranium out of the ground, that vibranium honey in Big C, a lot of athletes are eating the vibranium now. They're saying over 100,000 people in California will be employed by this industry of marijuana. Not consuming it, but employed by it. So if that's the case, we got to get the education out there so that people, number one, will not become incarcerated because they want to ease their pain. It's not an excuse to be irresponsible, just like drinking and driving is not responsible, but you can buy an alcoholic beverage if you're of a certain age, 21. And I just hope that young people stop doing whatever it takes to make a league and to stay and play through pain when it's hurting you. And Kyle Turley told you that. And even POTUS is behind it because of the money. But Big C, wouldn't that keep young athletes safe if they know that instead of taking these opioids and having all these suicides going on, that there's an easier way that doctors have sworn by for years? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if they do what you were saying about the extractions and allowing that to be administered to athletes to alleviate some of the pain and just overall the impact that the body has to suffer through.
Yeah.
These are the things that the NFL has to look at. Is that, you know, they have to look at medical science. The NFL is a profiteering business. As I say, they own their players. The players don't have autonomy to be free.
No.
And so they own all of what the players take also. These are the things that they've approved that the players can take.
Yeah.
And you think about that. You'll get locked up on the street if you're an average person and you take the average amount of opiates that an NFL player takes.
That's right.
You will go to jail. You know, Tiger Woods tried to do that. You saw what happened to him. He couldn't drive. He couldn't function.
Victor Ursay, Rush Limbaugh.
He thought he was in another state.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. He wasn't on marijuana. You know, he was on opiates.
Was it
prescriptions from his doctor.
Robert Ursay, too, owner of Indiana.
He was living in another state.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Robert Ursay had that issue. Rush Limbaugh. A lot of people do. This is not keep people dumb. This is about if you have a child and you're going through epileptic seizures or other issues that are caused by CTE symptoms, it's collisions. We got to wake up. I hate following dumb people. I just hope the smart people like Sanjay Gupta keep talking about it, because when the black athletes were advocating about it, they said, yeah, you guys just want to be, what did Mitt Romney call us, 47%ers, Big C, lazy and shiftless? That's what he said we were. Now that POTUS is behind it, they say, hey, it's $1 billion industry. Let me buy some stock in those companies. And that's a fact. Big C, as we close out tonight, NBA basketball, it truly is fantastic. Houston Rockets and the Jazz. Looks like the big lions on the Houston Rockets, they ate those Jazz for gazelle. They were like lions and gazelles. Big C, your thoughts on that matchup, the Rockets and the Jazz? Your thoughts?
You know, the Rockets, Charlton, have won 5 consecutive playoff games by double digits. And, you know, with the Jazz being without Ricky Rubio, Charlton, they really don't stand much of a chance. You know, 110-96 victory. James Harden scoring over 40 points once again, Charlton. The Rockets clicking on all cylinders. You know, they're not intimidated by Rudy Gobert in the paint because they have such great outside shooters. So they're going to have to find a way to extend their defense, Charlton, to get up in the face of these Rockets if they expect to win 1 or 2 games.
They might need some vibranium, Big C. That's all they really need. They need vibranium. The Pelicans and the Warriors, number 6 seed versus number 2 seed. Golden State in the vibranium country. Everybody loves Golden State. They play with such efficiency, even without the best player on their team, Steph Curry, Durant, Curry. They go hand in hand. But the Pelicans, I don't think they'll get swept because they have Davis and they have Rondo, and they just have a chance to at least win a game, but it may have to be at home. There's talk that Curry had a good practice, may play Tuesday night. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, everyone talks about the offensive firepower of Golden State, but they went into the fourth quarter leading by 25 points.
Yeah.
The reason for that, Charlton, was their defense. They extend their defense all over the court. I mean, they play at breakneck pace. And you think about it, you can take your best defensive player and put it on their best offensive player, who is Rajon Rondo.
Yeah.
People think it's Davis. No, it's Rondo because he makes the offense click. And you take Draymond Green, who had a triple-double in this game, Charlton, and put him on Rondo and shut him down. And you got all these great shooters on the Warriors. I mean, it's anybody's ball. I mean, they're so deep in the playoffs is that they're playing 9 and 10 players at times, and you don't even realize it.
No.
It's just next man up. And they're so unselfish.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there worried about, when you look at the Pelicans, they're waiting on Davis to get started. They were down by 20 points waiting on that.
Yeah, that's a long wait, Big C. In the Eastern Conference, the 76ers, number 3 seed, versus the Boston Celtics. Johnny Morris wishes his voice was still around, Big C. But that's a series that a lot of people are looking forward to. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this takes us back to when you think about one of the most bitter rivalries in the NBA. People will always say the Lakers and the Celtics. No, it's the 76ers and the Celtics. This goes back to even fights when Larry Bird and Dr. J went after each other's throat.
Yeah.
These are 2 long-time franchises. You go back, it was the 76ers who stopped the Boston Celtics 8 consecutive championship streak with Wilt Chamberlain, on that team. And he and Bill Russell used to battle all the time.
That's right.
But it's good to see. You go back to Charles Barkley's days, in Philadelphia where they battled against the Sixers. To have these 2 young teams, the Charlton, 4 future All-Stars, 2 on each side that you're looking at.
Yeah.
So this I expect to be a very competitive series. I'd like to see 6 to 7 games out of this series, Charlton.
Well, what I'd like to see is the number 1 Raptors. Oh, Canada, back by popular demand, Big C, our home and native land. We love you, good old boys of Canada. But you're playing the Cavaliers. And it's been known that LeBron James knows where to find vibranium, Big C. In fact, he ate so much vibranium honey, he got 45 points twice. That's how good he is, that vibranium honey he's been eating on, Big C. This guy, I don't care what you say, Harden's not the MVP. Harden is a great player. But find me any team in the history of the NBA universe that can have one person that can make the significant difference in a team winning or losing a game than LeBron James. I know some people don't like LeBron's braggadocio. I know sometimes they say, well, he's too entitled. All he plays bully ball. But find me one player in the NBA universe that when it has to get it done, it's him. Now, it may come to an end against Toronto. We don't know because they have their own big boys up north. But give me your thoughts. Not only did they knock off, Indiana, which had him on the ropes a lot of times, but he did it pretty much by himself with a little bit of help. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Harden may be the MVP of the NBA. LeBron is the most valuable player in all of basketball universe.
Yes.
That's just where he is. You look at this player, Charlton. He's just won his 7th consecutive 7-game series, okay? When it was gone 7 games, they won 7 consecutive with him. You got to look at him, Charlton. He's outscoring anybody on his team by 2/3 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay, he's got 3 times more points than the next highest scorer on the team in this series versus the Pacers, Kevin Love.
Yeah.
So, and that's why when I mentioned earlier, when Kevin Love seemed like he was concussed, they didn't take him out of the lineup because he only won by a couple of baskets, Sean.
Yeah.
But they need to find a way to pick up the tempo against Toronto. Like, Indiana outscored Cleveland by 40 points in this series and still lost. You think about that. They outscored them by 40 points in this series and still lost.
Wow.
So they can't do that with Toronto. But, James got to find a way to get some help from his bench. His bench has basically been non-supportive at all.
Yes.
Here it is. He had 2 games in this series, Charlton, where he scored over 40 points, 3 games where he scored over 30 points. And so as he goes, the Cavaliers go. They just don't have a safety net, Charlton, not even with Kevin Love. You see how much they miss Kyrie Irving.
Yep, they sure do, Big C. So I love basketball. It's so fantastic. I love seeing the athletes that can run up and down the court. And no matter who gets the MVP, like you mentioned, he's the best player out there. And people thought that Michael Jordan was the best. There was nothing like watching the Bulls win championship number 6 because you knew you were watching something special when you saw Michael Jordan play. I recall when Kareem was coming down the stretch, Big C, it's something you sit back and you say, we may not see this again. When you saw guys like Mike Tyson knocking people out, Muhammad Ali, the Thrill of Manila, the Robo-Dope, you looked at those players and you said, man, I may not see like a guy like this in a long time. Barry Bonds, when he's hitting home runs in AT&T Park, you may not see this in a long time. LeBron James, if he has another 3 or 4 dominant years left in him, I tell you, it's must-see basketball. I know he's found the vibranium, Big C. That's why it's not just fictional in the Black Panther. Vibranium is real, Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we got a couple games in the NHL and a couple games in the NBA tonight, Charlton. It's going to be a fantastic night for sports fans as we sit back and we take all of this in. And the thing about it, it's hard to figure out what to watch. So I'm going to jack into my neighbor's cable, and that way I can set up a couple TVs, and, I get multiple games. So whenever he's watching, I can put my TV on the other.
I feel sorry for your neighbor. First, they can't find the roasted pig that they ate, and now he can't find his cable. It keeps having that clip in it, Big C. But all's fair in love and war. What a good neighbor's for if you can't use their cable. And speaking of cable, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.